I beg to move that this House do now adjourn.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. Mr Will Forster.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I wish to address the deeply concerning issue of rising rail fares, which is having a profound impact on my constituents in Woking and indeed for commuters across the country. Since 2019, the cost of a season ticket from Woking to Waterloo has increased by £773, now standing at an astonishing £4,516. At a time when people are struggling with the cost of living crisis, these eye-watering fare rises are not only unfair, but they are counterproductive. If we are serious about promoting economic growth, if we're serious about tackling climate change, we must make public transport an affordable and attractive option for everyone. Instead, rail travel has become a luxury many are finding they can no longer afford, ironically risking debt to earn a living. That isn't acceptable. Worse still, these rising costs come alongside an increasingly unreliable service. Our Freedom of Information request revealed that over 55,000 rush hour trains were either partially or fully cancelled last year. That's a 10% rise on the year before, and the worst record since 2019. UK passengers are being railed with a terrible ask to pay more for a deteriorating service. That's just not something that I'm willing to get on board with, and I think we need to get back on track and secure a fair deal for passengers.
Yeah.
But this isn't just about rail fares. One of my new constituents, Joanna from West Byfleet, shared her experience of the unsafe conditions at West Byfleet Station's car park, where inadequate lighting, overgrown vegetation has created an isolated and unsafe environment at night. Despite multiple complaints to South Western Railway, little has been done to improve these conditions. This is just one of the many examples where passengers are being let down, and this is extra to the issue of cost. Madam Deputy Speaker, I want to highlight the plight of another constituent from Woking, Katie, who has voiced her frustration at the lack of fast stopping services from Woking to Clapham Junction during peak hours. After the 7:13 a.m. service, there's a gap of over 90 minutes without fast trains stopping at Clapham, this key station on our network, forcing commuters like Katie to take longer and more expensive routes. These aren't just isolated incidents or examples. It's part of a broader pattern of neglect that commuters across our communities face. Now is time for this government to act. The Liberal Democrats and I are calling for an immediate freeze on rail fares, which would save commuters in Woking £140 a year, and I'm sure it would save commuters across the country similar sums. This policy is not only affordable, but it's necessary. Rail fares should not continue to rise while services decline. Honourable members, do you see where I'm going with this? We need long-term reform. The current ticketing system is fragmented and confusing. Passengers are paying more for less. We need a simplified, fair and affordable fare structure that works for everyone. I'm aware of the government's nationalisation plans and the bills before this House and the creation of Great British Rail. But I must say this, ultimately, people are not interested in whether trains are run by private companies or by public ones. My constituents want trains that are affordable, safe and reliable. The Conservative government's failure to deliver on this has left commuters in Woking and beyond paying the price of Tory chaos. And there is no one here to argue with me, which shows how little they care about this issue. Let's make sure we don't repeat the mistakes that the Conservatives made in this Parliament. 2025 will be the 200th anniversary of our railways. Honourable members, we have a real opportunity to freeze rail fares and make 2025 the year we give passengers a fair deal. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Now, there are a number of members in the chamber this evening. I know some have certainly secured agreements. Right, you can all sit. Have secured agreement from the honourable member for Woking to participate in the debate. That is perfectly in order. but I should remind the House that this is time limited, and I do expect that the Minister will be given plenty of time to reply to any points raised. It may therefore not be possible to accommodate everybody who wishes to participate this evening. I call Olly Glover.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I start by commending my honourable friend, the member for Woking, for securing this important debate, and by thanking both him and the Minister for the opportunity to speak. My honourable friend has eloquently articulated the cost and train service challenges facing his constituents on the South Western Main Line. Many of these are shared by my constituents in Didcot and Wantage and their commuting experience on the Great Western Main Line between Didcot and London Paddington. An annual season ticket on this route, without any London travel card addition, for the 53 miles in each direction costs £6,300. A peak hour day return is £81. Sadly, few commuters are able to benefit from travelling the off-peak. In part, that is because the evening peak period for fast trains lasts from 1533 until 1921, nearly 4 hours. Such a long peak period can create significant overcrowding on the first or last off-peak trains, which is not an effective use of the capacity available. Given we are frequently told that travelling volumes are lower than they were before the pandemic, it perhaps feels like a missed opportunity that such harsh rush hour restrictions have not been reformed. To save money, some of my constituents choose to double their journey time by using slower local trains instead of intercity ones, which is less than convenient. As well as supporting my honourable friend's calls for fare freezes and wider service improvements, I make two broader observations. Firstly, as so often with rail policy, the key question for government is, how much do they wish our railways to be used and deliver the wider economic value that they have the potential to have? To make the most of the high and generally fixed costs associated with infrastructure and operations, making the ticketing system comprehensible and affordable will help to increase volume of fare revenue as well as the yield from each fare. Secondly, the fact that so many people in the southeast of England have long and expensive commutes by train is surely partly a product of London's profoundly unaffordable housing market. As so often, transport policy does not or should not exist in a vacuum.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Residents in my constituency are fortunate that they can reach the capital in about 45 minutes. However, with Paddington sitting to the west of London, weekday day trippers only get a limited amount of time to spend in London if they want to enjoy off-peak rates. The Great Western Railway service does run an afternoon service direct to Newbury, but the final train is at 16:05, just 5 minutes into peak time. This means my constituents have to pay the extra peak time charge or wait 3 hours for off-peak to kick back in. My constituent, Elizabeth Capewell, has asked if those with a senior or disabled travel card could use the 16:05 service, which would make travel to London much easier and much more worthwhile. I hope that train operators and the government can take this plea on board.
Luke Taylor.
Thank you very much. I'd like to begin by thanking my honourable friend for Woking for bringing this debate and giving us an opportunity to raise constituents' concerns and wider Liberal Democrat priorities in this chamber. I'd also like to thank the Minister for attending and giving responses to our points. I'd like to begin by raising the case, as I did this morning, of the poor service of rail services to Worcester Park Station. It is affecting residents' quality of life. They are missing children's collections from school, they are missing family meals, and additionally they are not being able to rely on the train service and fear for their safety if they have to wait for a taxi late at night if the train does not come. I'd also broaden the discussion to the issues of investment in our rail infrastructure. So in early 2023 there was the much vaunted by the previous government announcement of funding for upgrades to the Belmont rail line, £14.1 million from the Levelling Up fund to dual track part of the line to allow frequencies to be increased to 4 trains an hour in each direction by the addition of a passing loop at Belmont Station. This increase in accessibility would massively benefit residents of my constituency, but is also key to getting the best out of the Cancer Hub site, which Sutton Council has been so ambitious in investing in and bringing forward an incredibly advanced, world-leading cancer research centre in southwest London that will benefit not just Sutton and Cheam, but the whole of London. Will the gentleman agree with me that investing in these infrastructure upgrades, as well as concentrating on the value for money from existing services, is critical to allowing residents to make sustainable transport choices, but also to unleash the economic benefits of investment in our areas, in the Institute of Cancer Research, in Sutton and Cheam, and to allow us to achieve our net zero climate goals, and also boost the economy, for which the government seems so very keen to support.
Zoe Franklin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to my honourable friend from Woking for raising this important topic. As the MP for Guildford, I think I can speak for most of my residents who commute, and I share in their pain on the daily commute from Guildford. Every single week, residents suffer terrible service on the trains, delays, general problems. It is no wonder then that residents who commute to London and many other locations across the South East and beyond feel incredibly frustrated by the continued rising in fees at a time where the service continues to deteriorate. So my question to the Minister is really, will you commit to not just holding train companies to account more effectively, but also asking them to freeze rail fares until their services improve?
Will my right honourable friend give way?
I will give way.
In Harpenden, commuters are faced with the absurd reality where a single off-peak ticket can cost £18.40, where 11 minutes later you can get an Oyster train at Radlett for £5.90. Would my right honourable friend agree with me that this absurd and unfair pricing system needs to be reviewed?
I thank my honourable friend for that intervention, and I would absolutely agree, and I completely understand the situation of the ridiculousness of train fares across different areas. I have incredibly high train fares between very small distances in my constituency, and it is deeply frustrating. I think what's also frustrating for commuters regarding their train fares is the fact that actually commuters want to switch to trains. And actually, if we are serious about tackling the climate crisis and encouraging people to switch their mode of transport to the railways, then we have to address the issue of both reliability but also train fares. People look at the trains and they go, it's not convenient, it's not reliable, and it is expensive. And so I end my comments there just simply saying we have to stop train fares rising, because we need to encourage people to get out of their cars and choose the sustainable transport method that is the railway. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I call the Minister, Simon Lightwood.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I would like to congratulate the Honourable Gentleman for the member for Woking for securing this debate on the cost of rail fares, and to all members who have made contributions this evening. For the past 200 years, our railways have been the heart of our transport network. During that time, the railways have played an essential role in enabling people to travel across our country, visit their loved ones, and seize economic opportunities. This government is committed to getting our railways back on track, which is why we're already delivering on major reforms to fix our country's broken rail network within the context of a challenging fiscal inheritance. This includes the Passenger Rail Services Bill, which will potentially save the taxpayers up to £150 million every year in fees alone, once all franchises are in public ownership. Reform and public ownership are essential to delivering further fares reform. The current system is fragmented, with the train operators who take no revenue risk taking decisions on aspects of fares and ticketing. This is hampering the government's ability to make these fares system fit for purpose, and public ownership will allow a joined-up approach to be taken across the network.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In Macclesfield, we have the pleasure of being served by both Avanti and Northern trains, unfortunately, and it was the previous Conservative government that handed Avanti yet another franchise, despite being one of the poorest operators in terms of reliability in the previous year. Does he agree with me that our plans for Great British Rail will not only improve reliability, but make sure that instead of repatriating profits to Italy, they're used for the public good here at home?
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for his intervention. Absolutely agree, and I can assure you, on the very first week the Secretary of State took office, she summoned a number of companies to her office to hold them to account. They will be held to account, and we're determined to see improvements. Reform and public ownership are essential to delivering further fares reform. The current system is fragmented, with train operators, as I said, taking no revenue risk but taking those decisions. Fares revenue is crucial to funding day-to-day railway operations, as well as government priorities around putting passengers first and improving performance on the railway. However, I recognise the serious concern consumers have around the cost of rail fares. The affordability of the railway is a key objective for this government, making sure that prices are kept wherever possible at a point which works for both passengers and the taxpayers. We know that the rise in rail fares can affect the family budgets of working people, including commuters between Woking and London. Rail fares have always been an evocative subject, and rises in rail fares are often contentious. In this context, it is vital that passengers know that they're getting value for money. That is why this government is committed to reviewing the overly complicated fare system with a view to simplifying it. The regulation surrounding the fare system is rooted in privatisation of the 1990s. So there will be many opportunities to modernise the fare system as we move forwards, establishing Great British Railways and bringing forward the legislation they need to take on their roles in fares, ticketing and other operational aspects of the railway. However, there is progress we can make now on improving fares and ticketing. We are progressing the expansion of simpler, easier, more flexible pay-as-you-go ticketing across the South East. Along with simplified ticketing, pay-as-you-go with contactless offers passengers a best practice guarantee on the day. For most passengers, pay-as-you-go with contactless will always provide them with the best price for a single day's travel. We're also considering how simplifying long-distance fares can unlock better value opportunities for passengers, as well as smoothing demand to make the best use of capacity while minimising crowding.
I thank the Minister for giving way. Rail fares in my constituency of Lewis to London have increased by 20% since 2020, meaning that if increases go ahead this year, a commuter from Lewis will incur £5,500 worth of costs for a season ticket, which for many people who are already seeing salaries not increasing in recent years and the cost of living going up is a major cost for them. We've seen quite a lot of success with capping for bus fares in recent years, which has certainly for some of our local users been an improvement. Will the Minister support a cap on rail fares of a similar sort?
Minister.
I thank the honourable gentleman for his intervention. Affordability is one of our key 6 objectives, so that prices are kept wherever possible at an affordable point, at a point which works for both passengers and taxpayers. We are supporting LNER to offer its simpler fare trial tickets between London and stations around Newcastle, Berwick-upon-Tweed and Edinburgh from the 30th of September this year. Naturally, we will carefully evaluate before taking further decisions. LNER has published on its website the opportunities that the trial offers, including a new 70-minute flex tickets between Newcastle and London priced at £45, subject to availability. This ticket offers a degree of flexibility from nearly £40 cheaper than the old super off-peak. LNER set out that, overall, around half of standard class 70-minute flex tickets sold were cheaper than the old super off-peak, according to its latest figures. In addition, these and the vast majority of other tickets on LNER are now sold on a single-leg basis, where a single costs approximately half the price of the previous return, rather than being priced within £1 of the return, as was often the case. This allows passengers to pay only for what they need by mixing and matching the right ticket for them for each leg of the journey. For example, advanced tickets with flexible tickets, or off-peak with off-peak where those exist. There is a large range of rail cards available to make rail travel more affordable for some, with at least a third of the cost of most rail tickets. Once established, I would expect Great British Railways to take a fresh look at the railcard suite, so that we can encourage the highest number of passengers to use our railways. Woking is part of South Western Railway's critical corridor between Woking and London Waterloo, and is therefore key to ensuring strong operational performance. South Western Railway recorded an 87% overall satisfaction rating in the Transport-Focused Rail User Survey in September this year.
Thank you for the Minister giving way. So many of my constituents in Epsom and York commute to London for work, and they've complained that since the pandemic the number of trains have halved, and they express their dread at the prospect of being squeezed onto yet another train. Despite this reduction in service and subsequent overcrowding, prices have increased, with residents telling me we pay extraordinary prices for subpar service. Does the Minister agree with me that as a principle...
Earlier this week, that interventions need to be short, they are not mini speeches, they should be spontaneous, and they should not be read out. Perhaps the Honourable Lady has finished her comments. Minister.
I thank the Honourable Lady for her intervention, and of course, if you want to follow up in writing with me, so you can finish the rest of your exchange, I'll be more than happy to pass it on. Going back to the Transport-Focused Rail Survey, which South Western Railway recorded 87% overall satisfaction rating, they also offer innovative products which let passengers choose tickets that suit their needs, such as Touch Smart Card, which allows tickets to be added to your smart card online via an app and from ticket machines at a station. In recent months, there has been an issue with a specific set of points at Woking to which a temporary fix has been found. In the medium term, a more permanent solution will need to be sought, which may cause the temporary closure of lines for planned engineering. For the commuter, season tickets are still a great way to save money on travel and are available on a smart card. For 2 to 3 day a week commuters, the flexible season ticket offers further savings against traditional season tickets. In Woking, flexible season tickets offer 2 and 3 day a week commuters into London better value than both any time day and standard.
I beg to move that this House do now adjourn.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. Minister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. We know that across the country, people rely on trains to get to work, to school, and to see their loved ones, which is why we're relentlessly focused on securing improved services for passengers with better value for money for taxpayers. I shall conclude, Madam Deputy Speaker, by thanking the Honourable Gentleman for securing today's debate. I'm sure he appreciates that rail plays an important part in people's lives across the country, and especially his constituency. This government is putting passengers at the heart of the railway, and I want to reassure members that we're working hard on putting the reforms in place that will create stronger, more reliable railways that will work for people that use them. Thank you.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Order, order.